to the podcast. It's the day I've been waiting for. My book is out. Social Media for Schools. Proven storytelling strategies and ideas to celebrate your students and staff while keeping your sanity. Very excited. You can head on over to socialschoolforedu.com/book and you can grab your copy. And today in the episode, I really wanted to share kind of my beginning chapter. It's the Why You're Here chapter of my book. I think it's going to give you a good flavor of the tone of the book and how helpful it's going to be. And it's kind of like you and I having a conversation about what's best for social media. Why I wrote this book for you. I wrote this book because for 9 years, I've been trying to hand out the best advice that I can for school social media managers. And I have never assembled everything together in one spot. And this is the guide that's going to help. I actually have 5 sections of the book. We start out with systems, creating some systems that work. Then we go into branding. Then we get into storytelling, best practices, and then we end with professional development because, hey, we've got to keep learning, especially with social media because it's always changing. I'm really, really excited. This book is really for anyone, secretary, a teacher, a school comms person, a volunteer, a superintendent, a principal. If you are got thrown into social media management for your school and you have no formal training, you're a former journalist, you're a former teacher, even if you have been in school PR for many years, but you've been struggling with how to really consistently celebrate your school on social media, you guys, this book is for you. So very excited to share this episode with you. But as always, we always start out with a K-12 PR tip, and that's not going to be any different with this podcast episode. So let's get to that quick tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip is really just a pep talk for you and what you are feeding into your own professional development. Of course, I talk a lot about it in my new book of how to get free professional development through podcasts like this one, through organizations that you can join across the country that are really going to help you. But I just want to say something that was powerful and that was instilled in me young in my leadership career is, leaders are readers. And you're in schools, reading is important. Of course, I've come out now with a book to help support you in your social media efforts, but there are so many great books out there. And what I'd love to do is challenge you to give me a book that you just love that supports you in your role as a school communicator, no matter if that's your official title or not. But I'd love to collect some book titles. So would you please tweet me at Andrea Gribble, or you can email me, Andrea@socialschoolforedu.com. Let's put a list together of some really helpful book resources for school storytelling, for school communications. I know people have said, Crucial Conversations is a great book. There's a lot of marketing and other books that can apply to schools, which is really fun. It's not always a school education book, but it's business that you can then bring to school. So I would love to know your book recommendations. We can put a little list together for you. Again, tweet me at Andrea Gribble or email me, Andrea@socialschoolforedu.com. Let's get to today's episode. All right. Today's episode, I am sharing from my new book, Social Media for Schools, Proven Storytelling Strategies and Ideas to Celebrate Your Students and Staff Without Losing Your Sanity. And this is, kind of the first prelude chapter, why we're here. If you're watching this on YouTube, I actually have the book pulled up in draft form. So you can read along if you'd like to watch this on YouTube. Why we're here. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? A teacher? A professional football player? A TV news anchor? All common answers. When I was 2 years old, I wanted to be Dolly Parton. That didn't work out in so many ways. Did any of you say school communicator? I bet not. But here we are. And I'm guessing this is exactly why you're reading this book. You've been recently challenged to take on responsibilities that include running social media for your school district. Or you've been doing the best you can for the past several years, but are really struggling with finding content to share and the time to do it well. After all, managing social media can feel like a 24/7 role. You aren't alone. When I started doing social media back in 2014, I had no idea what I was doing. Not only did I have to figure out the best ways to set up the social media platforms for the school district and how to schedule posts, but I also had to figure out how I was going to get the content from the school so I could have content to post. You are one person. You can't be in every classroom every day. You have other responsibilities besides social media. While figuring out how to navigate the ever-changing social media platforms is hard enough, the real struggle is getting a content strategy behind what your school should be sharing. And of course, how to get all of that content. Social media is a big responsibility. Every word you use and every photo you share is up for public opinion. I mean, we literally want people to comment on what we share. It can be scary, and you're going to make mistakes. I certainly have, and I'll share lots of them with you in this book. You are one person, but you aren't alone. You need support. Another concern that I bet you're facing is that you have a lot of people in your school or district who want to tell you how to do your job. Others use social media, so they think they are experts. And you are never, ever going to please all those critics. Since I was in your shoes not so long ago, the goal of this book is to help provide a proven framework to help you succeed in celebrating your school on social media. You are now the head cheerleader, and we need a plan to get everyone involved. It will take time. However, using this book as your guide, you will be successful. This book will not break down the specific how-tos of the different social media platforms. If I did that, I would literally need to update this book on a daily basis. That's how fast things change. If you need support and training when it comes to that side of your job, you'll want to consider my virtual membership group. I talk about that in the final chapter of the book, but we have a lot to cover before we get there. How I got here. We all have our stories of how we got into school communications. And since we're going to be hanging out for the rest of this book, I should probably share mine. When I was 35 years old, I was blessed with a layoff. I can say I was blessed now that it's over, but it wasn't a blessing at the time. I was a single mom with two little girls, and I walked into work on Monday, November 18th, 2013, and was met at the door by the VP of operations. After working in management for nearly my entire 13 and a half years with the company, I knew what that meant. I was going to be let go. After a brief meeting and lots of tears on my end, I discovered my role had been eliminated. I was shocked. I was scared. But I wasn't one to sit around. I immediately got to work on looking for another job. My issue was that in my 13 plus years with my company, I had 2 years as a product marketing manager, 2 years as an operations manager, 3 years as a purchasing manager, and 3 years as a quality assurance manager. Companies were looking for those magical 5 to 7 years of experience, and I didn't have that in one specific area. I had a broad base of knowledge, but not quite enough to place me in a higher level management role. My other issue was that I lived in a super small town. There were not a ton of options when it came to finding a company within driving distance. I started talking with a friend of mine who owned a catering business. Jane needed some help with her growing business, and my broad background was a great fit. After working in marketing for the past several years, I had an interest in social media. Jane said that many business owners are so busy trying to run their business that they don't have time to figure out social media. That's where Marketing on the Move LLC was born. It was my own official business where I help businesses produce content to share on social media to help sell whatever they had to offer. I worked with Jane's catering business, an accountant, a jeweler, and a photographer. I learned a lot, mostly that every business had a very different type of customer that required a very different content strategy for social media. So that also meant a lot of work for me. After a few months, the superintendent of New Auburn School District, Brian Henning, reached out with a simple email. Brian and I attended the same church, and he also was my mom's boss. My mom worked as the administrative secretary. She liked to talk, and she shared how I had lost my job and was trying to start this social media business. An open door. Brian asked if I could help the school start Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube accounts. He had no idea where to start or how to manage it. He just knew that in 2014, social media was becoming increasingly popular and that our small little district was competing with surrounding schools for students. Wisconsin is one of many states with open enrollment options for students. This means that families could select schools other than the district they physically lived in, as long as there were openings in the district of their choice. I jumped at the chance. I was a graduate of New Auburn. Both of my girls were attending school there, and I knew nearly the entire staff. It sounded like the perfect fit. Plus, it wasn't really like marketing. I was just going to share photos, videos, and stories about the everyday happenings in the school. My trial program launched on April 15th, 2014, and hashtag Social School for EDU was born. I'm proud to say that all these years later, I still manage the day-to-day social media efforts for this K-12 school district of 300 students. Expanded opportunities and new challenges. Right after the kickoff of social media for New Auburn, I was invited to a regional superintendent's meeting to share more about how I was helping them launch social media. It was April in Wisconsin, so of course, there was a snowstorm. Instead of 22 superintendents, there were only 8 present. But guess what? I signed a contract with my second school. I wish I could say it was complete smooth sailing from there, but it wasn't. Supporting myself and my girls was a struggle. I started receiving assistance for food and healthcare. By August of that year, I was up to my third school, but with hardly any money coming in, I was forced to sell my home and move in with my parents. Whoa, that was a hard one to swallow. I had been independent my whole life. I built a beautiful 5-bedroom home on 10 acres at the age of 23. How was it that I now had to burden my parents with 2 kids and me because I couldn't afford to have my own house? It was the most challenging time of my life. I really thought I was onto something with focusing on social media for schools, but I also was not yet making enough money to pay the bills. The anxiety was overwhelming, and my therapy sessions weren't enough. I was so afraid. I decided to interview for a real job. I just needed a paycheck. The weekend I moved out of my home, I received a job offer. It paid $82,000 per year, offered 21 days of vacation, insurance, everything I needed. But accepting this job would mean walking away from what I'd started. Bill, my boyfriend, now husband, sat down with me to talk through the options. Risking it all. God had bigger plans for me, and I knew it. I decided to lean in for 6 months and give it everything I had. That decision is why we are here today. Now, there have been a ton of ups and downs along the way, but I truly believe that God has me in the exact spot I need to be. I now lead a team of 30 stay-at-home moms who help schools around the country. We impact more than 140,000 students and their families each day with the stories we share directly on social media. In addition to the schools where we manage their social media, I also lead a program that train and support school social media managers. Thousands of schools from around the world have been part of my programs. I'm here to help you. I'm a natural born cheerleader. I was a cheerleader in high school, and I continue to do that in this role. Social media managers have a tough job and don't get much appreciation, but I see it, I see you, and I'm here for you. I don't just cheer, I teach. In 2014, after just a few months of doing social media for schools, I started a blog. I have a big mouth and I'm not good at keeping secrets. So I started a blog about what works when it comes to social media in schools. In 2020, I started a weekly podcast where I interview school social media managers from across the country. It's called Mastering Social Media for Schools. I share all the secrets, and I'll include a lot of them in this book. My best advice for others to succeed in life is to hang around really smart people. I've made friends with leaders from around the country who are seasoned school communicators and learn from them. They're top leaders in their field, and you're actually going to meet many of them in this book. You'll discover that I'm huge on practicality. I don't bother with the fluff. Yes, you need a strategy, but it's more about how to get her done. I've trained thousands through my blogs, webinars, video tips, boot camps, podcasts, and membership group. I started an email newsletter back in 2015, and I am committed to sharing tips and tricks to make your job easier. Throughout this book, I will often mention school districts. Please know that I have worked with public schools, private schools, charter schools, faith-based schools, and virtual schools. Each school has differences that make them unique, but the overall social media strategy remains similar. No matter what kind of school you work in, the content in this book will help your efforts. Now it's time to sum it all up in one handy dandy guide. This book is all of my work so far, packaged up to truly help you. Ready, set, go. Are you ready to get started? I hope you'll join the number of people who have found content from #SocialSchool4EDU helpful in their work as school communicators. Here are a few that I hope will inspire you to turn the page and get to work. Quote, "Your podcast with goals for the new school year was one of the best podcasts I ever heard. Such inspiration, and at the exact moment I needed it. Energy, grace, joy, delegate, boundaries. Every one of these speaks to me, and I have set them as goals." End quote. Charlene Paparizos, Communications Director, Education Service Center of Northeast Ohio. Quote, "Andrea is responsive, authentic, energetic, connected, resourceful, influential, and the queen of accountability. She is an encourager, focused on finding what's working and sharing it with the world. Mix that together and you've got the perfect coach. This podcast is my Monday morning motivation. It's invaluable PD fueled by accountability and creativity. The ROI is something even the Shark Tank panel would take a chance on." End quote. Jamie Brace, Communications Director, Claremore Public Schools, Oklahoma. Quote, "I have learned a wealth of information, not only here on Facebook, shout out Epic 5-Day Challenge, but also on her podcast, the email newsletter, and website. They are generous with tips and information. It's always easy and intuitive to understand." End quote. Kayla Smolt, Communications Coordinator, Sherrard School District, Illinois. Quote, "I have tried some other school PR groups, but this is the only one I will continue to subscribe to every year. I am a better communicator because of you and your team, and I have a better attitude. The value of what you provide is worth more than any subscription price. Thanks for being so positive and inspiring." End quote. From Cassie Gregory, Communications PR Coordinator, Cold Spring Oakhurst Consolidated ISD, Texas. Quote, I want to thank you for everything you and your team have done to support, educate, and cheerlead school communications people like me. To have consistent support, encouragement, and empathy from you and the community that you have built has had a major difference in my skill set, my confidence, and my mental health. I can't thank you enough. To have someone like you showing us the way, showing us that it's okay to fail at some things, and showing us that you just need to keep moving forward is inspiring. End quote. John Casper, Communications Coordinator, Winona Area Public Schools, Minnesota. And then bonus resources throughout the book, you'll find mentions of free bonus content links. Be sure to get those resources at socialschoolforedu.com/book. All right, guys, that is my introductory chapter in my new book, Social Media for Schools. I hope you will grab your copy over at socialschoolforedu.com. It's a simple $24.99. It's available on Amazon and where other books are sold. It's also got a digital version. So if you want to read it on your Kindle or other things, readers, you can also get your digital copy. Guys, this really belongs any school communicator. So if you're listening to this and you're not in school communications, this would be a great gift for those who are. I hope you'll grab your copy. I hope it helps you. And certainly once you've read it, let me know if it has. I look forward to continue serving you here. We're going to finish this year strong. And next week, we'll be back with another fabulous guest to talk about best practices for social media at your school. Until then, keep telling those stories.